Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. So this video actually wasn't planned as a comparison at all. A friend of mine, Alin, flew from the UK just for a few days, and the idea was simple: ride together, enjoy Bosnia and Herzegovina, spend some time on the road, no pressure at all. But once we started preparing for the trip, we realized something. Alin owns a Tracer 9 GT back at home, and I've spent a lot of time riding all type of Tracer 9s, both previous generation and the new one. So at some point we said, okay, why don't we just take two different Tracers and see how they feel next to each other. Nothing specific, no spreadsheets, just riding. Over the few days we covered around 1500 kilometers, which is about 930 miles. It was mountains, canyons, highways, small roads, bad asphalt, heat, rain, a bit of everything. And during the ride, naturally, we kept talking at fuel stops, in the evenings, while swapping the bikes. That's where this video really comes from. We stopped in the middle of I don't know, nowhere. Alan is managing his battery situation, yeah? What's happening with our batteries? What's happening with our batteries?
What's happened?
Yeah.
Oh, just we're filming too much and we're enjoying life, mate.
We're 100% enjoying life. So the previous generation, new generation up there. What do you guys think? Which one you like more? This black one, all black. Look at this.
I'm gonna take that off because I don't want to lose it.
What is it?
The battery cover.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we are traveling today further to Bosnia, taking ourselves to another location, and we specifically chosen to ride some B roads, right? So we're not really going through the main roads, we don't take in highways, going through the villages. Some of the villages are actually abandoned, you know. At first glance you can think that, you know, this village behind me is also abandoned, but then you look closely and you see that people actually looking after it, and there is like actually there is some memorials you can see, and everything is so clean, and fields are super organized, and you can see cow in the distance. I mean, people definitely living here, but the question as usual, what people do in such places, you know? I've said this before in my earlier videos, but it became very clear again on this trip. With the previous generation Tracer 9, the bikes were extremely close to each other. On the road, suspension feels similar, handling feels the same, engine is exactly the same, and people often tell me, yeah, but GT has more technology. And yes, on paper it does, but when you ride these bikes back to back, day after day, you realize something very important. They feel almost identical. Alan confirms it immediately. His reaction was very simple: there is no difference. And I understand exactly what he means. Yes, semi-active suspension sometimes feels a bit nicer, but conventional suspension has something very important, which is predictability. It always behaves the same way, and many experienced riders actually prefer that. This is something I hear all the time from riders who come to Montenegro to ride with us on our tours, especially people who've been riding motorcycles for many years. They tell me simple is better. Not because they don't like technology, but because they know what they want. They want the bikes that behave the same way every time, no surprises, no settings they don't really understand or use. And with the proper suspension setup, a base bike performs extremely well. That's why for years I've been saying, if you don't really need the tech, just take the base Tracer 9. You get the same engine, the same chassis, the same safety systems, and on top of that you save a lot of money, and you only add accessories you actually need. In Europe, the price difference between base Tracer 9 and Tracer 9 GT Plus can be 6,000 or 7,000 euros. It's not a small difference. And electronics are great if you use them, but if not, it's just there. Now let's talk about real riding, right? When we scout roads in Montenegro, Bosnia, Albania or Croatia, It is very different situations and planned holiday trips. Sometimes you don't know where the road goes. Asphalt suddenly disappears, weather changes fast, you might drop the bike. In those moments, what I want is less electronics, maximum reliability, a bike that just starts and works, and the bike which can be easily fixed. And this is where Tracer 9 as a platform really surprised me over the years. In my opinion, it is underrated. People don't always understand it, but the truth is you can build many different motorcycles on top of this one. In our fleet we don't just have a Tracer 9, we have two different ideas for Tracer 9. One is Tracer 9 Tour Pack, comfortable, practical, great for long distance road travel, but still with a more conventional setup, which many riders actually prefer. And the second one is a Tracer 9 Explorer Pack. This one was built with a very specific idea in mind, a more durable, more robust Tracer, something you don't baby, something you can take to narrow mountain road, broken asphalt roads, into remote areas, and sometimes even onto light gravel. In a way, we try to make something that feels closer to what people imagine when they think about Super Tenere. So we built it properly with the crush bars, skid plates, stronger panniers, and with the right set of tires like Dunlop Mutant or Pirelli Scorpion Trail, this bike becomes surprisingly capable. And what is interesting is that some riders actually prefer this setup over GT or GT Plus because it is more practical, more scratch resistant, more stress free, and in general you don't worry, you just ride. I just want to show you guys something. So we are somewhere in the mountains of Bosnia, and we discover a new mountain pass, and then let me show you. So we have those windmills, you see. And to be honest, it is so good up here because there is like complete silence. There is only nature and you, a little bit of wind, and nobody else. So our bikes are there, and we just stopped here for a minute to enjoy the views, silence, wind, and nature. But you know, traveling is what it's all about, right? So we're trying to get maximum of what we could, and we are heading this direction. Wherever you look, the scenery is just like magnificent. Now about the new generation starting from 2025. The lineup is now Tracer 9, Tracer 9 GT and Tracer 9 GT Plus, and the differences between them are much more noticeable than before, but the biggest change is not only technology, it's how the bike feels. So on the new generation you sit a little bit higher, you feel more on top of the bike, the riding position is more relaxed, more touring focused, where on the previous generation you sit a little bit more inside the motorcycle, the tank feels a little bit higher, it feels sportier. Neither is better or worse, they just different, but clearly Yamaha moved the Tracer more towards touring comfort. So when we started riding twisty roads, we noticed something interesting. The previous generation turns a little bit quicker, it feels slightly more playful. The new generation feels more stable, more planned, especially at the speed. On highways, the new bike is clearly more relaxed. On twisty roads both bikes are fantastic, but I feel that previous generation has a little bit more sporty DNA. Brakes feel very similar overall, the difference comes with automatic versions and GT Plus because they have link braking system. Even if you just use the front or just real brake, the bike helps you to brake more efficiently. Wind and rain protection is better on new generation, the front is wider, your lower body is better protected. You can really see it when both bikes are standing next to each other, and when we were riding in rainy conditions you could see how much less rain end up on your legs on a new generation. But wind buffering, yeah, I think for many people this is still the issue. For me it's okay, for Alan isn't great, and judging by what people saying online, some are still not happy with the new windshield as well, so aftermarket options will probably be the solution for some riders. We rode bikes in very mixed conditions. Some days it was 43-44 degrees Celsius, other days cooler, cloudy, rainy, and both bikes were on Bridgestone T32 tires, which come as a standard on Tracer. Grip was excellent, no issues, nothing dramatic to report, which is actually a good thing. And thanks to the ride modes, you can change the bike behavior on the fly depending on what the weather throws at you. Ride modes are actually one of the areas where the new generation feels very different. On the previous generation, everything was based on numbers, so you had to remember what each setting mean. Traction, throttle, suspension, and if you wanted to change something on the go, you had to adjust each parameter separately. I already did a separate video about that, so if you're curious you can check it out, but honestly it was not very intuitive. On the new generation it's much simpler and much more user-friendly. You have rain, street, sport and custom, and you can switch the modes on the bike immediately just by pressing the button, and the bike immediately adapts suspension, traction control, throttle response. And the really important thing is, on GT and GT Plus you can now switch off electronic suspension. So even if you want more analog predictable feeling, you can still have that on more premium versions of Tracer. Another big advantage is connectivity. Because the bike connects to the app, you can do all the adjustments on your phone. Take your time and then just sync everything with the bike. You can even save multiple profiles, and whenever you need one, you just sync it again. Done. During this trip I was honestly having a lot of fun with it, switching between sport and street depending on the road, the pace or the conditions. It is just one click and the bike changes its character. After riding, swapping bikes and talking every day, what can I say about the new generation? It definitely has a better touring setup. It feels more relaxed and more pleasant on the road. The technology is also smarter and actually useful. For example, the new dash is stunning. Not only does it look great, but it's genuinely usable. You can set up bike, use navigation, control music, answer calls, all from one screen. Something many European manufacturers still don't do because they rely on separate navigation screens. The front matrix headlight is another big one. Honestly, it is a game changer. I usually avoid riding at night, and I still do, but with this generation I feel much more relaxed if I have to catch up a bit of darkness on the road. If your main goal is touring, the new generation is clearly closer to that idea. It offers very complete package that works well for almost everything. The previous generation, on the other hand, was more sporty and felt more connected to the rider. It was more of a sport tourer than a pure tourer. It feels a bit more fun in the mountains, more agile in sharp turns, and also more simple. I'd say the new lineup is still a step forward in almost every direction. So if you're deciding between 2025 model and previous generation, especially if you can get a good deal on either, here is simple take. If you want strong technology, ride long distances and spend more time on highways than on tight mountain roads, the new generation is a better choice. If you love riding in the mountains, enjoying twisties, don't care too much about the dash or fancy extras, and you can get previous generation for a good price, you'll be more than happy with it. But think about this, there is no bad Tracer 9. Old or new, base or GT, the real question is not which one is better, it is which one fits the way you ride. And that's exactly why we wanted to share this ride with you. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!